Welcome back. We have got some breaking news from Manchester United.
Has been seen as key when they've tried to bring in. It should also be pointed out that despite there being an outlay of close to United are not immune standing and a joint understanding between the hierarchy at Manchester United. That
cannot believe how bad they've been and how stubborn he has been as a manager. Like, I get it. At Sporting, he done really well. He played a system. He had the players that worked. But, you come into Man United, you come into the Premier League, it is a completely different ball game. And I just think he's out of his depth. He is out of his depth. It was too big of a step for him. It's too big of...
Used to, I guess. They've been good for the last few weeks. You have the international break probably come for the wrong time for them. But I look at it now more than anything is that you go against 10 men, that's fine. With players, it's sometimes tough to break down. It is tough against 10 men. But players have got to take accountability. It's all right hiding behind the managers, but you're on the pitch, you've got leaders, characters, and the biggest eye-opener, and I think the alarming bit was how much they missed and relied on Mateus Cunha.
Jamie?
Yeah, he talks about complacency. I think it's on the manager. That last night was, really and truthfully, you look at the performance, massive chance for them to get themselves up into the top four against a decent Everton side. They go down to 10 men and you lose the game. That's on the manager. Gary Neville touched on it there. They're playing 5 at the back. And when they go down to 10 men, the first thing the manager should do is put on an attacking player and take a centre-half off. You do not need 3 players at the back. And I think he's out of his depth. And we've been hoodwinked into thinking that over the last month or so, they've had a couple of decent performances, a couple of decent results. He's miles off it. Miles off it. That's just, look, Charles, I agree with you with the complacency, with the players as well. But a manager to not change his tactics when they've gone down to 10 men and you...
Rúben Amorim feels like the first manager who I've seen who sticks with a system rather than an idea of how to play. So, I use you, Roberto, as a reference. I always know how your teams will play with the ball. That's your idea. The formation might change, but Rúben Amorim, it's like, I've said this before, the formation's his baby. And to not change it or alter it in situations like that, I don't understand how you can stick with something so steadfastly in a situation like that when it's basically, one guy up front who's not really up front. You don't need 3 players there. If you're going to keep with your system, maybe put midfield players there. We see other managers do that. Maybe you bring a centre-back off and put a midfield player there because you're going to have so much more of the ball, so much more of possession. So I actually think it's not the losing the 3 points tonight. They can make that up through the season. I think it's one of those moments where I think a lot of people will really question the manager on the back of that defeat. They'll look at the players, and we know the players should do better, but the manager will take a lot of the blame for
leave 5 at the back.
But we said
that's ridiculous.
But where you say hoodwinked on the results that they've obviously had, that's because they've been so below par since obviously he's come in, and we talked about him and his tactics, this kind of stuff. However, the players have to contribute to the match day result, don't they? And I get they're going out there, but we've done it as players. You go across the white line, now you're out there. Yes, he's chosen a team and picked the 11, the tactics, but you've still got to go and perform.
But you still need the gaffer to help you out, don't you?
Yeah, but they've
if you're a striker and you're looking over at the gaffer going, they're down to 10 men, I'm still playing up front on my own. You're saying, Gaffer, help me out, put someone up with me.
Of course, but Premier League players surely use their IQ that, right, we can move forward at least. We know how hard it is to break down a block of 10 men behind the ball, of course, but surely it's Manchester United. Or, however, are we now looking at it because of them results where they've done well the last 4 or 5 games? Are you thinking, right, they've made progression?
And he's crumbled. And when I watch him, the formation, I just don't get it. He hasn't got it for that. The players, the midfield, he's got no legs. You're trying to play Bruno in there, it don't work. But just the way he is as a manager as well is so emotional. He can't watch penalties. He sits in the dugout.
Or is it just going to be the same old Man United?
I think the manager's so arrogant, Tom. He's so arrogant in his formation that he is so hell-bent on saying, I'm playing 3-4-3. This is the formation that works for me. I'm not changing my philosophy, regardless of what happens. A game changes. Over 90 minutes in a game, in-game management as a manager, you've got to adapt. Things happen. Things change. You might have a player sent off. They have a player sent off. Use the numerical advantage that they had last. They didn't use the advantage that they had because they had 3 players standing at the back marking 1 player. So it was pointless having Everton down to 10 men because they didn't do anything about it.
There was someone there, Charlie, messaging on WhatsApp saying that why did they need 3 centre-backs against Tierney, Barry on his own, which I think is the point is one of the points Jamie's making. I remember you saying, Charlie, that when Manchester United picked up their form, we weren't talking about the formation anymore, like we were every single day, it seemed, when they weren't doing so well. But, and the formation has been working lately, but they haven't been playing against 10 men.
No, they haven't. And I guess that's where you go on about where you have to adapt to certain...
It was Chelsea, I suppose.
Yeah, but you have to adapt to certain scenarios, right, and certain situations. But regardless, we've played 3 centre-halves against 1. Well, surely they've got enough about them, enough experience in that back three to go 1 in front, 1 in behind, and then you just tuck in.
But
you just move into the position.
Shaw's got a lot of England caps. De Ligt has got a
well, that's what I'm saying.
lot of caps. They do have a lot of experience. They've got Bruno Fernandes caps. That was not a young team who needed the manager to say, you've got to press forward.
That's what I'm saying. So surely you can make them decisions on the pitch also. Experienced players. Yes, you've got the manager. I'm not saying go against the manager. Of course not at all times. But you can feel it on the pitch. You can change it. Them leaders on the pitch should be able to make changes and make decisions for themselves during the game. Yes,
I think they're scared though, Charles. I think they're scared. I think the players at Man United are scared to make decisions.
But what's that say about Man United then, Jay?
Well,
like, what's that say? If you've got players, this is why the spotlight's on Mateus Cunha, because he's someone that's there carrying a badge, carrying the Man United shirt, and playing like a Manchester United player of old. Yeah. And now you've got players on the pitch that are scared to make decisions. That's ridiculous.
Well, Bruno Fernandes was on the pitch.
Yeah, but Bruno Fernandes, he's not. It can't be a one-man band, right? You've got to have quality around you. You've got to have players that can make a difference. You know, and there's, you know, finding spaces. You know, he stands on the side of the pitch, and I'm not convinced that he really knows what he's doing. It's been such a poor appointment for Man United, and the quicker they get rid of him, the quicker they're going to get better. Because I don't actually believe that Man United are that bad. I think they've got some good players, but the formation they're playing does not suit any of the players that want to play in that formation. Finding gaps. When I was watching the game last night, not only did they have 3 at the back, there was moments when it goes out to the winger. Ahmad's a good player, by the way, and I like him. He was decent last night, and he'll have a go. But when he's turning back, his pass is 20 yards backwards, instead of it being 5 yards backwards or 5 yards inside, where you can keep the pressure. When you watch Bournemouth play, Tom, they're a brilliant example of how to pin teams in. They'll pin.
Manchester United have delivered one of the most anticipated announcements of the season, officially confirming the dismissal of Rúben Amorim after a turbulent and deeply inconsistent tenure at Old Trafford. The decision ends a spell marked by uncertainty, tactical confusion, and ongoing struggles that left fans increasingly frustrated with the direction of the club. Amorim arrived with high expectations, praised for his success abroad and billed as the fresh, modern coach to lead United into a new era. But instead of progress, the team found itself drifting further from its identity. Performances lacked cohesion, the playing style appeared unclear, and the squad often looked disconnected on the field. Behind the scenes, tensions reportedly escalated as the atmosphere within the dressing room deteriorated. Senior players grew unsettled, morale slipped, and confidence in Amorim's leadership weakened. The gap between expectations and results widened with each disappointing performance, ultimately pushing the club toward a decision that had begun to feel inevitable. The final weeks of Amorim's reign were defined by increasing pressure, repeated setbacks, and the absence of a clear route forward. For supporters, who had hoped for long-term stability and a rebuilding process rooted in conviction, the lack of improvement became impossible to overlook. The United board, faced with mounting criticism and a stagnating squad, responded with decisive action to end the growing uncertainty. With Amorim now officially gone, Manchester United stand once again at a crucial crossroads. The club must appoint a manager capable not only of steadying the team but restoring belief, purpose, and pride to a fan base worn down by years of false starts and failed rebuilds. The search for a new leader will be one of the most important decisions the board has made in recent years, and one that supporters worldwide will watch closely. Reactions from fans across the globe range from shock to relief to renewed hope that the next chapter may finally bring the clarity and progress that have long been missing. For Manchester United, this marks the end of yet another chapter of instability, and the beginning of yet another high-stakes journey toward rebuilding the club's identity and ambition.